Professor. You see my name's over the corner. Let's talk about fathers' rights. We have none. Well, we have some, but not to the degree that the other parties do. So what we want to talk about today is legal things that we can do to protect ourselves in the event after 40% of children after 1 year lose contact with their fathers. And that's a serious thing because that's alienation. Parental alienation is a form of child abuse. It's also punishable. Okay, remember that. It's punishable. But you have to have proof, lots of it. And then to have a judge who's going to be willing to take all of that evidence into consideration when you have a legitimate complaint. Okay? This has nothing to do with money. This has to do with time. It has to do with time that you should be able to be spending with your kid. But alienation makes it virtually impossible, or the mother makes it impossible to see your own kid. And during that time, they will feed their kid full of all of the wonderful things that you used to do when you were together, giving them ammunition to dislike you and downright hate you. So here I have a situation where I have a son who I had with a Turkish woman in Germany when I was stationed there. Now I'm talking to my son 22 years later after the fact. I've been alienated the entire time he was a child. Now he's an adult, and he's a pissed off adult. The thing about it is he talks exactly like his mother. He's literally telling me I need to clean my life up for stuff that I did 20-something years ago when I was with his mom. See what I'm saying? So his mind is like frozen in these memories that this woman had of me, which is completely understandable. Because I was a womanizer, a cheater like you wouldn't believe, an alcoholic, and I mean all around bad guy because I was a bad dude back then. Whoa, what's up from Cambodia, man? I'm glad to see you. Listen, guys, alienation is when the mother takes the kid, legally, and then doesn't allow them to see their father. And it is against the law. It's illegal. It is a form of child abuse that is punishable by law. And I'm not telling people to do that because that'll make your life worse. Think about it. If you're alienated, and you file a complaint, and you have no intention of keeping the kid after the fact, don't even bother, because all it's going to do is cause that kid to hate you. Now let's look at my own kid. He's 22 years old. His mother has emasculated him. He talks like a woman. Not even kidding. And he argues like a woman, like a really emotional person, unfortunately. Now he doesn't want to talk to me at all because I've told him the truth about his mother. I even showed him the proof, okay? His mother committed paternity fraud with another man prior to me. I know this because I was the one who helped her find him in the United States, find a lawyer to sue him for child support, only to come to find out after she told me that she actually got pregnant by another guy and then pinned the child support on this man over here that's in, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And his name is Gerald. And he has a kid named Jasmine, however you want to spell it, with a Y or a Z or a whatever. And that's not his kid, but he paid child support for 18 years for this girl that wasn't even his. And I talked to the guy on the phone. I looked him up and I called him and I said, hey, listen, man, I'm the guy, the white dude, because this is a black dude, who was with that woman after you. And I just wanted to let you know that she told me that girl that you think is your daughter isn't your daughter. And you know what? They don't have any rights. She's in Germany. What's he going to do? Sue her? What's he going to do? There's nothing he can do. She extrapolated money from that guy for 20 years. Bankrupted him, basically. He had his license suspended over and over and over again for not paying child support on a kid he was suspected it wasn't even his. Until the courts came after him and threatened to put him in jail. And when he finally did get a job, they basically garnished 60% of his wages, making him virtually bankrupt. Okay? And it's a reality in family courts. The reason why I know this is because now they discovered that the judges actually make money when they assign child support to a father. This is why it's more beneficial to assign child support to a father, because they're more likely to make more money than the wife. Makes sense, right? Now, if the woman makes more money and the man happens to have parental custody of the kid, she's probably not going to pay child support. But if it was a reverse, then they definitely would. So I don't want to talk too much about my own situation because you guys know the story. You know that I was set up. See, what happens is when you get into these feminist mindsets, these women have feminist mindset that have nothing to do with the rights of women and nothing more to do, less to do than destruction of men. That's all they really care about is censorship and destroying fathers, essentially. What's going to happen in the long run is that equal lives are going to end up being equal lefts. Okay, and what I'm saying is that fathers in the United States have been pushed to the point where they're leaving the United States, and they are leaving these people behind, including the children, which is not good. I'm encouraging guys that wash your hands of the whole fucking shit. If she's going to make your life impossible and you can't see your kid, you need to write letters. And you need to write letters by hand and mail them to a family member that can give those letters to a kid so he will know the truth or she will know the truth when they're older and it can understand what was going on. But I am not telling people to run away from their responsibilities. I'm not telling people to not pay child support. On the contrary, I say pay your child support. Set up an allotment through your employer. Set up an allotment through your bank so that money gets to the kid early. Okay? On time, every time. Because if it's late, they could suspend your license. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it happened to me. Unfortunately, it happens, but it does. Okay? That happened to me, and it happens to millions of dudes like me. We were the nice guys in the 90s. We were the nice guys. We were taught and trained to care about the well-being of others. But what ended up happening is what feminism has done. It went from women being abused and oppressed to being here in the middle to being an extreme level of hatred towards men. See what I'm saying? It goes from here to here to here, and that's just where we are right now. Critical mass. This is why there are no fathers in the house. This is why family structure has crumbled. But the court system is stacked against fathers. Fathers have no rights comparatively. You ask yourself, what rights do men have that women do not? We don't have access. We're not going to talk about reproduction because we already know the story there. If you're a victim of paternity fraud, I would suggest you go and get a DNA test from Walmart, Walgreens, or CVS that costs $24.99. And from what I understand, they're completely sold out nationwide. Imagine that. $24.99 for a DNA test. Now, this is not something that you want to take and then throw it up in their face. You want to get a lawyer after you know the facts. You have to lawyer the fuck up. Because believe me, she's going to lawyer up, and if you lose, you got to pay for it. So reverse that fucking polarity right away. Okay? With that document, that will set the ball in motion. It allows you to go and get to get a judge to order a paternity test. Now, if you're in Germany, that can't be that's not happening. In France, not happening because it's considered child abuse. So we're not going to do that. No, on the contrary. If you have access to your kid and you go get one of these $24.99 swab kits that they sell at CVS Pharmacy and Walgreens and Walmart, and then you get a negative result that says you're not the father, all that does is put you in the path of the motion that you need to go directly to a lawyer, and a lawyer who is an ass kicker. Now, if I had a legal fund, I hope, I would always hope that we would find a men's group or somebody like that, a men's advocacy group that has lawyers. Because let's just take state of Florida, for example. I was sitting there with the ex in court, and the lawyers from the Department of Revenue, which, by the way, this is a collection agency for the United States, to collect money from fathers, not from mothers, from fathers, and enforce it. When you sign your life away on that as a contract, is legally binding, that could put your ass in jail, that can get your passport suspended for renewal, or getting one to begin with, get your license suspended to drive, get your hunting and fishing license taken away, a lot of things. So we lose rights. They have rights. I want to tell you something. I have a fire academy down here that advocates for boys. It costs me $75 a month to sponsor every boy. I have 15 boys. Now, fortunately for me, I have a men's group, the Righteous Fear. Okay? We're all about what it's all about, the real. I pay that out of my own pocket. every month. I don't ask anybody for anything, and it's about time I did, because it seems to me that you give stuff for free, give away stuff for free, there's no value attached to it. But man, I'm going to tell you something. If there was such a fund that we could have a legal team of hotshots to combat this shit. You see, the Department of Revenue actually said to my ex-wife, "You don't have to sit with him, honey," and they grilled me. They made it sound like I had actually done something wrong by having a kid. Okay? So as you can see, there's no winning here. I'm going to give you guys all the information that you need to know. You need to go to the courthouse and fill out a form. This gives you a right as a veteran, a disabled veteran, to go and waive late fees for child support. It's a very, very obscure form that actually is in every court system in every state in the U.S. that entitles disabled veterans with 100% P&T or disability to have those things waived. Now, many veterans do not know this. Many veterans are up to their eyeballs in debt, up to their eyeballs in back child support, and they can't get a passport because they owe more than $1,500 in back child support, in arrears. Once they got that number down, they can renew their passport and go the fuck overseas and wash their hands of this shit. I wouldn't wash my hands of this shit if my kid was here. If my kid was here, he'd be with me right now. And I told him that, I told my own kid, I was like, "Do you really think that if I didn't want anything to do with you, that I would be talking to you now?" I said, "Now you're going to realize." See, my mistake with him was I told him everything his mother did. He wanted to accuse me of all the things I did, but he never saw or heard my side of the story, which is fine. Because now I'm not talking to him at all. And I'm going to wash my hands of the shit. Because he's just like his mother. He's brainwashed. And there's no change in that. And now I've upset him to the point where he's playing games. So I'm just like, fuck it. I don't care anymore. You want to be part of my life? You act like a fucking adult. Talk to me. Unfortunately, that language, like he's like, "You're not," I told him everything I had done wrong in the relationship. I admitted to every single thing I'd done. And he actually pointed out them as I was going along. He's like, "Well, I heard this and I heard that." "Yep, that's true. That's true. Well, I don't know about that, but this. So I admitted to everything. So it wasn't like I was trying to obscure anything, because I don't care anymore, because I've already paid for all this stuff. He's like, "You went to jail for this. You went to jail for that." I said, No. I went to jail 19 fucking times for being drunk in public and fist fighting. Yeah, I've been sober for 21 years now. So as you can see, 1 year after he was born, I stopped drinking. So everything prior to that is all the information he has about me. So that's all he knows. This is mama's story. What he doesn't know is that for the past 30 years, I've been working on myself really well. And most of you guys know me, and you know what I'm talking about. You know I don't do anything illegal. You know I don't lie to people. And that was what he was anticipating. And the last message that he sent to me, all I wanted to know was all your lies. And I was like, "What lies?" I admitted to them all. I don't lie to people. It's actually a fun game of mine not to lie to people. It's one of these things when you overcome trauma, you start to be very truthful. When you've got the tools and the support groups in order to face facts. And one of the things that we do down here is called fact finding and fact facing of the causes and conditions of what got us here to begin with. What are the causes? Well, I chose wrong. I can't reverse that. I chose bad. What did I do wrong? Well, I probably did a lot wrong, but the one thing I did do wrong was I picked her. And then after it got toxic, I stuck around. Yeah, man, I'm going to tell you something. Wash your hands if your kid is brainwashed by the mother, and there's nothing you can do to change that. There's nothing you can do to reverse what you did. The only thing you can do is live a day at a time, like Alcoholics Anonymous says, and live one simple day at a time. Because they don't care about you. They don't care about your rights. They don't care what happens to you. And you can tell by how often they contact you. And the reason why I say that is because I have this conversation with my own son. And he says that he actually checked out my Facebook page when he was about 15 years old. And I go, "You little motherfucker, why didn't you contact me? I've been looking for you my whole life." His mom took him to Turkey and disappeared. Meanwhile, I'm paying child support and I'm wondering who my kid is. I'm still curious, though. Because if she did paternity fraud with the guy who was before me, what do you think I'm thinking of now? Especially the way this combative motherfucker is with me, too. So it's a real eye-opener. Now, I wish there was a way I could just fly my ass to Germany right now, say, hey, kid, swab this in your mouth so I can go test and see if you're even my kid. I won't be able to do that. And at this point, he ain't going to let me. Because I've offered, the first day I talked to him, and I said, I will send you a plane ticket today if you want to come here. Because you want to get to know me? Now you can come down and see the real who I am. You get to know who I am. And you know what's crazy is that I think my experience has been good for me because now I can talk about it. And now I got nothing hanging over my head because I paid off my child support. I already went to jail for dumb shit I did 20 years ago. So, this is great because this kid actually is talking to me as if I am actively engaged in the stuff that I did prior to him being born, which was a lot of dumb shit. But it's totally okay. I'm completely okay with it because I'm not going to deal with this kid ever again. You know what I mean? It's not his fault. It's his mom's fault. And now he's brainwashed to the point where he's defending her injustifiable bullshit that she pulled on me and everybody else that was down the line. And I asked him a very simple question. Why do you think she's single? Because she's a horrible fucking person. Ratchety. And I made the mistake of telling him all this. I said, look, here's what happened. Tried to emasculate me like she did you. Told me I have to sit down to pee. A woman that tells a man to sit down to pee? What are you, crazy? Hey, dog, what's going on? You all right? I'm not dealing with none of that. And then literally talking to me as if I have to accept it. What the fuck are you thinking, kid? See, here's the great thing. It probably is my kid because he argues like I do. But I can tell that emotional side of him that I've had therapy for and treatment for, he's still dealing with. And you know what's crazy? I also heard him say that his mom said I was a paranoid schizophrenic. Now, paranoid schizophrenic is somebody that literally lives in a dream world and has hallucinations about being in another life or something like that and actually seeing, people that aren't there. And then being afraid of every single thing. He tells me he's paranoid. And I'm like, what? Who told you this? My mom told me you were paranoid schizophrenic. I'm like, really? Wow. Because the last time I checked, veterans that go to war don't come back with paranoid schizophrenia. There's a thing called post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder doesn't cause schizophrenia or paranoia. It's a condition caused by a traumatic event. It doesn't cause somebody to hallucinate or any of these things. So all this time in his entire life, he's been thinking his father is a paranoid schizophrenic, which was a lie. Well, or she was confused because she didn't know what trauma was. You know what I mean? At no point in the conversation, he didn't even know that I had medals for heroism. He had no idea that I had been in the war twice. He had no idea. All he was assuming that I was just some bum. And he was probably right. I was probably a bum when I was living with her. Because I was living with her. Oh, yeah. I had split up with my ex. She had gone back to the States with a baby and lost her passport and never decided to come back and filed for divorce and sent me the fucking papers. After that, I ended up with this other girl. But what she didn't know is I had an ex-wife back in the States and a little baby with that girl back in the States. So by the time she found out 2 years later that I had another wife and a kid in the States, you know what I mean? She had reason to want to murder my ass. And she tried. She sent 2 guys that she had paid to put me in the hospital with her own words, she says, for 12 weeks, which is 3 months. And I'm like, wow, interesting. I put it on recording. I had a recording of it and I sent it to my lawyer. I still have this, by the way, where she threatens me that if I don't marry her, that she was going to send people to break my legs and put me in the hospital. So a few days later, 2 Russian guys that were in Germany attacked me and my friends while we were out partying one night. I got a Friday night. They had no idea what they were up against. You know what I mean? So I just don't get it. She sent these scrawny fucking kids to come and beat me up. You know what I mean? I'm 225 pounds and jacked. I practice jiu-jitsu, Krav Maga, and Muay Thai kickboxing. Are you fucking stupid? I mean, not that I'm a big tough guy or anything, but what are you thinking? Like, I think what maybe she was trying to do, because she knew I could beat these guys to death, that if two men attacked me, that I could fight them back, put them in a hospital, or even kill them, and then I would end up in jail, which she would find wonderful, because at that point she was just looking for vengeance. So now my son is in touch with me, and now her vengeance continues on through that thread of him, through those poisonous roots. What a mess. Now, I'm not saying this, I was not a victim, and I was an active participant of all horse shit that I did. I don't blame anybody but myself, because I picked her. Remember that? Yes. Okay, yeah, man, this is the only kid I don't have communication with. This is the only kid that his mother alienated me. The rest of them are here. They're here now. Not here in the building, but they have their own house. They have their own stuff. It didn't happen like that before. It sucked. You see, we only have two. I only have two kids. The rest are adopted. One of them is in Orlando, and the other one is in Germany. One of them is Turkish, and the other is Swiss American. So you can see, I'm quite experienced in this stuff. The ones that were in, which by the way, they're living in Colombia, are doing well. They're all in college. Well, one of them just graduated, and the other one is fucking around. Which, like I said, I raised them by myself, so it doesn't really matter. Now, I want to tell you guys something. I told my son that he's like, I heard you have kids all over. I said, really? How about that? Tell me about that. Well, I just saw on your Facebook, oh, so you've been on my Facebook and you've been on my Instagram and you see that I'm with other children, but you don't try and communicate with me. So I'm the asshole for not communicating with you when you're not communicating with me. You know what I mean? This kid's entitled. My boy is entitled as a motherfucker. He actually acts like I need to sit there and listen to him and accept all these. He spends the entire time insulting me and telling me all this bullshit that his mother told him. And I know you guys have experienced that. Especially when somebody dislikes you, all I do is talk about you behind your back. But you know what? I alpha widowed her. And if you don't know what that means that when you dig down a woman so good that no matter what man she's with after that, all they think about is you. Now, I'm not saying I'm packing, but for a woman that only went with big, tall, 6 foot and over black dudes her entire life, and I was the only white guy who's ever been with her, then I must be packing heat too. Maybe I am. Or maybe there was something else to it. And here's what it was. In Turkey, they have this term. It's called çok ayup. A person who is çok ayup is an embarrassment to the community. In Asia, they call it losing face. Well, in Turkey, it's quite more severe. You see, in Turkey, when you get married, you're a virgin. And the process for having a wedding is that when you go with your husband on the honeymoon, is they put the sheet of the bed in between you and the husband, and they insert the penis into the vagina via the sheet. And after the fact, they hang it out the window to show a blood stain that shows that the woman was a virgin. Clearly, this was not the case with Miss Çok Ayup Neşe, or whatever. What it was is that she didn't have a virgin wedding. No, instead, she hooked up with the guy from the barracks. She was a hoe. And now I understand that. I didn't even know what a hoe was. I was such a kid. So she hooks up with this guy. His name is Gerald. Has a baby with this guy. Her father disowns her, says he wants nothing to do with her. For one, the guy was American. For two, the guy was black. So Turks don't deal with none of that. I was the white knight savior. You see, after she divorced that guy and got his money, she needed a way to manipulate her family back into her life. And that's where she met me. And what happens is that you suddenly change the dynamics of, oh, I'm a reformed person. Because right as a woman is about to hit the wall at 30 years old, they go back to church, they find a good guy, they find some way to fix the irreparable damage they've done to their own body with the body counts they've gotten and with the reputation of being a hoe. So they go back to church and become the new virgin or whatever, or they go and try and marry a white guy who's upstanding. I don't know what she was thinking. I was not an upstanding citizen at all. I was a criminal. You know what I mean? All I did was get drunk and get in bar fights. You know, so it's not exactly the model citizen back then. As you can see, I'm not the same person anymore, and I'm quite older. I got quite a bit of responsibility and experience behind me that says don't do the same shit that caused you so much pain before. And that would be involving myself with toxic relationships like the one that I had. I didn't know any better. I basically hooked up with somebody who was like an abusive mother. From the time that I woke up in the morning until the time I went to bed at night, this person nagged and called me every possible thing they could do to be abusive. And the reason was, I come to find out that after all this time, her father traumatized her, so she traumatized her first husband. And then since her first husband, she was traumatized by that situation, she decided to put that trauma on me. And now my own son has experienced that same trauma that she experienced herself. So now he's traumatized because of his mother. And he needs therapy. I've actually talked to him. I said, look, man, part of what I do down here with the Veterans Without Borders and the firefighters is help them overcome trauma. And if you'll just learn to meditate and perhaps change your diet and maybe go to the gym. And he's like, no, I already tried that. No, I'm not doing that. No, they tried that. And my mom tried that. And she put me there. And now the kid wants to take medicine. You know what I mean? Meds, psych meds, for a condition that could be cured by being with his fucking father. Amazing how that works. Because I have a magical connection with that boy that the mom can never have. She's gonna fight it, but eventually he'd have to come back around. And he'd have to apologize to me because I don't deal with none of that shit. You're not gonna insult me. Okay, especially for something I did before you were born. Literally, okay, this is interesting because this is how the story went. And by the way, I'm gonna keep talking about this story probably forever. Okay, because it gets to the point, this is such a wacky story that it could be a movie or a mini series. Fathers don't have rights, not in any country. They have some, but nothing like what the wives do or the mothers do. It's heartbreaking, and they don't give a fuck. They're cannibals. They eat their children, and they don't love their children. Single mothers do not love their children. Otherwise, they wouldn't abandon their responsibility as a mother, and they would not alienate the father. Because think about this. You're going to make your son 80% worse than a kid who is with his father. He's got mental problems. He's probably going to have legal problems. He's probably going to have money problems. He's probably going to have relationship problems, because all the statistics point back to those events. Those statistics point back to the type of people that those ladies are. Venomous demons and the spirit of Lilith. The spirit of Lilith is the rebellious, evil spirit that affects certain modern women today, that says, I don't need no man, he ain't shit, and unless he makes money to the point where I can be feminine enough. See, if he makes a certain amount of money, then I'll be feminine, which basically means that I'm willing to do anything for you if you make an X amount of money so you could support me. And what's ironic is that nobody wants to be with a single mother. There's no honor in being a stepfather. There's no honor in that. This is why I tell people, go and get your passport, go overseas, meet a traditional woman who is trained to be a wife. What is a woman who is trained to be a wife? A woman who is trained to be a wife had a mother and a father together in their household. It's that person who doesn't have tattoos. It doesn't have children with other men. When it doesn't have a mega high body count. All the entitlement. And you guys realize that this is all almost over. This game is almost over. So hang in there as long as you can until this fucking game is over. Because we win in the end. You see, understand something. This isn't about men and women. This is about evil and good. This is about the devil and God. And this is about whomever is up there in space that used to have a stop sign that said no fun. That was my message. That was the image of God that I have, because we compare our fathers on earth. That's our image of God. It's if you had a father who abandoned you or treated you bad, or you totally were, you're not going to have a relationship with God, because your relationship with God is that of abandonment. And of course, no one wants to be abandoned. I'm the professor, and I hope you realize God God is in control. And I'm out.